All right, let's get right into it. Picture this. You pop the hood of your car. Maybe you're just going to check the oil, and you see something, well, something really weird. One of those big, thick radiator hoses, the ones that are supposed to be round and firm, is just sucked completely flat. It's a bizarre sight for sure, and it kicks off this fantastic little diagnostic mystery that we are going to solve together today. So have you ever had that moment? You're staring at it, and it just doesn't make sense. It's not leaking, it hasn't popped off, it's just collapsed in on itself. So what on earth is your car trying to tell you with this strange signal? Well, we're about to find out.
I absolutely love this description because it's just perfect. It really does look like a sad, flat tire right there in your engine bay. You can't miss it. And it's a crystal clear sign that something is way off with the pressure inside your car's cooling system.
To get to the bottom of this, we're going to follow a pretty clear path. First, we'll lay out the mystery itself. Then, we need to understand the cooling system it belongs to. After that, we'll zero in on the main suspect, this tiny but super important part, see exactly how it fails, and finally, we'll cover the simple ways you can diagnose and fix the whole thing. So what is actually physically happening here? It's not usually that the hose itself is weak or old. Nope. The real cause is something completely invisible. It's all about pressure, or more specifically, a lack of it. The real culprit here is a vacuum. See, as your engine cools down, the fluid and air inside contract, and the pressure inside the cooling system drops way down. If the system can't pull fluid back in to balance things out, the normal atmospheric pressure on the outside of the hose becomes incredibly powerful. We're talking about so much force that it literally crushes the hose flat. So the hose isn't weak, it's just being squeezed by the air all around us. Okay, so to understand why that vacuum even happens in the first place, we've got to zoom out a bit and look at the whole system this hose is part of. And let me tell you, this system has one of the most intense, high-stakes jobs in your entire car. Just take a look at this number for a second. 2,000 degrees Celsius. That's how hot it can get inside your engine's cylinders when the fuel ignites. To put that in perspective, that is literally hotter than the melting point of iron. The only thing standing between your engine block and a complete, catastrophic meltdown is the cooling system.
And this diagram here, it's basically the system's battle plan against that insane heat. You can see how the coolant gets pumped into the hot engine block, where it absorbs all that thermal energy. From there, it travels through the hoses to the radiator up front, where air flowing through cools it back down, and then it cycles right back to do it all over again. It's this constant, vital loop that keeps your engine alive.
Now, inside that big, complex system, we're going to zoom in on one tiny part. And honestly, it might look about as simple as a cap on a soda bottle, but it is secretly one of the most sophisticated and critical gatekeepers of the entire operation. We're talking about the radiator cap.
See, modern cars use what's called a pressure cooling system, and this is a really key idea. By sealing the system, that little cap allows pressure to build up, maybe 15 psi, or pounds per square inch. And for every pound of pressure you add, you actually raise the boiling point of the coolant. This is brilliant, because it lets the engine run at a hotter, much more efficient temperature without the coolant ever boiling over. And the radiator cap is the key to that whole process. It is so much more than just a lid. It's a precision-engineered two-way valve. Its entire job is to hold the exact right amount of pressure, and just as important, to manage what happens when things get hot and when they cool back down again.
So let's just walk through its job in 3 simple steps. First, when your car is off and the engine is totally cold, the system is just neutral. The cap has 2 little valves inside, a big pressure valve and a small vacuum valve. And right now, they're both closed, just sealing everything up tight. Okay, now as you start driving, the engine heats up and that coolant gets hot and expands. This starts building pressure in the system. Once that pressure hits the cap's limit, let's say it's a 15 psi cap, the main spring-loaded valve opens up. It lets just enough of that excess pressure and hot coolant escape into an overflow tank. This is crucial for preventing the hoses and radiator from blowing up.
And right here, this is the most important step for solving our mystery. After you shut the engine off, everything starts to cool down and contract. This creates that vacuum we talked about earlier. Now, a healthy radiator cap senses this negative pressure, and its tiny secondary vacuum valve opens up. This lets coolant get siphoned right back in from the overflow tank, which equalizes the pressure and keeps those hoses perfectly round.
So it's this brilliant two-way street, right? When pressure gets too high, the cap vents fluid out, and when a vacuum forms, it siphons fluid back in.
Now, as you can see here, caps can be old school metal or modern plastic, but it doesn't matter what they look like on the outside. It's that fundamental two-valve principle on the inside that does all the work. So now that we know exactly how a healthy cap is supposed to work, we can pinpoint the precise moment of failure that leads to our flat hose. It all comes down to that final step, the cool down cycle.
This, right here, this is the smoking gun. On the left, in a healthy system, that little vacuum valve opens, coolant rushes back in, and the hose stays happy. But look at the right. In a failed system, that tiny valve gets gunked up or just plain stuck. It can't open. The coolant is blocked, that vacuum has nowhere to go, and it just crushes the hose. Mystery solved.
Now, just to be thorough, could it be anything else? Sure. A blockage in the small hose that runs to the expansion tank could cause the same thing. Or a really badly clogged radiator can sometimes make the lower hose collapse while you're driving. But honestly, far and away, the #1 most common culprit is just a faulty radiator cap.
All right, so we found the culprit, we understand the science behind the crime, so let's get to the best part, the fix. Because for a problem that looks this dramatic, the solution is usually, well, it's incredibly simple.
And this is really the big takeaway here. A collapsed radiator hose looks like some catastrophic failure that's going to cost you a fortune. But in reality, the most common cause, that bad radiator cap, is one of the cheapest and easiest parts to replace on your entire car.
So here's your game plan. First, and this is the most important safety warning I can give you, never ever open a radiator cap on a hot engine. Just don't do it. Wait for it to cool down completely, then you can take the cap off and have a look. Are the rubber seals cracked? Push on that little vacuum valve in the center. Does it move freely or does it feel stuck? Also check that the little overflow hose isn't kinked or clogged. But honestly, if there's any doubt at all, just replace the cap. It's cheap insurance.
So, we've solved the mystery of the collapsed hose, and it all came down to this one small, simple, often overlooked part. Which kind of leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? What other tiny, inexpensive components are quietly doing a massive job inside your car, just waiting for their moment to try and tell you something important?